This is our third video for Chapter 7. This is Chapter 7, Section 3, Functions. What you'll learn in this video is to make a function table and to write an equation. Now remember, a number sentence without an equal sign is an expression, and a number sentence with an equal sign is an equation. The one and only term you need to define from this video is the word function. When you see it in the video, be sure to pause the video and write down the definition in your notebook. Let's pretend you have a machine. You can put any number or input into the machine. The machine performs an operation on the number and provides a result, or an output. A function is a rule that assigns exactly one output value to each input value. Suppose you tell the machine to multiply by 4. A function table, such as the one at the right, shows the input and output values. So if you have to, your function is you have to multiply by 4. So whatever number you put in, which here we have 3, must multiply by 4. So 3 times 4 gets us to our 12. And then negative 7 times 4 gets us to negative 28. Let's look at completing a function table. Say we want to complete a function table with the rule is output equals input times negative 2. So we have our output to input table. So we'll multiply negative 1 by negative 2 in the output column. So remember our rule is that everything has to be multiplied by negative 2. So negative 1 times negative 2 gets me a positive 2, because a negative times a positive, a negative times a negative gets me a positive answer. So if we have our input is 1, 1 times negative 2 gets me negative 2, because a positive times a negative is a negative. Then if we put in 3, 3 times negative 2 gets us to negative 6, because 3 times 2 is 6, and then a positive times a negative gives you a negative answer. So the input column has to follow the rule, and the output column is the result. Pause the video and complete these two tables in your notebook. Please copy the tables and then fill them in. Now, the input variable is also called the independent variable. The output variable is the dependent variable because it depends on the input variable. You cannot get an output variable without first getting input that you have to have some sort of reaction with. Let's look at identifying independent and dependent variables. So identify the independent and dependent variables, the age of an octopus and the weight of an octopus. Consider the two variables, the age of an octopus and the weight of an octopus. Which one makes more sense? As the octopus gets older, its weight changes, or as the octopus gets heavier, its age changes. Well, obviously it makes more sense that the weight would increase because of age rather than you get older just because you get heavier. That wouldn't make much sense. That would mean if I decided to lose weight, I would suddenly get younger. That would be nice, but it doesn't work that way. Pause the video and identify dependent and independent variables based on the sentence that you're given, the time spent studying, and the test score. You can also use variables in a function table to write a function rule. The output or dependent variable depends on the input or the independent variable. So let's look at writing equations for functions. The 8th grade class is selling t-shirts as a fundraiser. They record their daily sales and income in a table. Write an equation for the amount of income the class gets from its sale of t-shirts. So this is one where they want us to figure out what the function is from an already completed table. In the previous examples, they gave us the function and then we had to complete the table. Now we're doing the opposite. So the first thing you want to look at is you're going to look at the table and try to see if you can find a pattern. So looking at these numbers, I can see that they are all multiples of 11. 22 times 11 gets me 242. 41 times 11 gets me 451. If you're not familiar with the trick for multiplying by 11, be sure to ask me about it. It's really easy and it comes in very handy. So the income depends on the number of t-shirts sold. So the number of t-shirts is our input category and the money is our output category. The income is 11 times the number of t-shirts sold. So our function is income equals 11 times the number of t-shirts sold. Or if you wanted to rewrite that, it would be y equals 11 times x. This is typically the way you will see a function written. Y is almost always the output, and x is almost always the input value. Every once in a while they'll change up the letters, or sometimes they'll write it a little differently, but a good rule of thumb is the output is y and the input is x. Pause the video and try this one in your notebook. Remember to look for your pattern first to figure out what's going on in the table, and then use that to work backwards to create your function. Now let's check your understanding. Be sure to label it as check your understanding in your notebook. Show all your work where applicable, and be sure to number all of your problems. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.